There we go. The whole world is you, yet you keep thinking there is something else. Wave Thing, I guess you pronounce it, said that probably 4,000 years ago. The whole world is you, yet you keep thinking there is something else. And right now our world is blowing wide open with the amazing work that Oprah is doing with Eckhart Tolle. The world is blowing open. The whole world is starting to understand that everything they see is perceived by their own perception. And that's a tough one. It's the good news and the bad news, because the good news is I can do something about the way I'm seeing it, the way I'm hearing it. Why do we meditate? Why do we say things like, let's be with so-and-so, or so-and-so has asked for help, or why do I get the calls for help, for a lifting? There's a note up here, 4 requests for prayer. What is that about? It's about helping one another dissolve the illusionary nature of the appearances that our 5 physical senses come to when we are looking out there. We had a wonderful experience yesterday with one of our friends' students, where we got to sit with this person, one on each side of her, and we sat until the 3 of us dissolved completely, and there was nothing but an energy and a light of oneness there. Complete understanding that there was no one but the one self, the one light. And that's what we do in the silence when our mind will lay down. I think the mind is the 6th physical sense as far as I'm concerned, or perhaps the number 1 one. Of course, we have many definitions for mind. There's the little mind and there's the big mind. We're told to be mindful, and then we're told to empty the mind. This path can be very confusing if we're trying to think our way into enlightenment. And yet we have a practice. We practice the presence. We practice our little rituals. We practice our prayer time, our writing time, our investigation, because as Saint Teresa said, actually, yes, Saint Teresa, that peace will not happen without investigation. And why would that be true? Because unless I am investigating the thoughts that are continually being said to me, either by myself, those that I've heard and put in my little computer, or over the waves of the television or radio, but one can sit without any of that external voices coming at them and still hear the voices. You can hear the voices from the past, the voices from the future, and the voices from the present. No wonder we long for the silence of no voices other than that silent stillness of God. We've come into a work of Joel Goldsmith which taught the 4 principles of the nature of God. Well, I'm going to put them on the board because it's so simple, and yet here we are. I think I have long enough. Nature of, and then we have God. All we need is I. Nature of man. All we need is illusion. Nature of prayer equals silence. Real simple, isn't it? But not easy. And nature of error, here comes this one. Because here is where the 5 physical senses really come in. And what is that? That is script. Oh, I like this one. Story. It's amazing. If I have no story about the person, whether they be housebound, whether they be in a hospital, whether they be calling with something regarding their children or their neighbor, if I just stop and say, oh, woman sitting on couch, child laying in hospital bed. If I simplify it and don't tell the story about, oh, isn't it awful what happened an hour ago, 2 hours ago, ain't it awful they won't get to and make up the story about their lives. Or how about when people pass in the young ages and we get the call. You know, I had an Infinite Way student call me about 3 months ago, and her son was killed by a truck, and he was like 19. And it was like his birth, you know, they ended up with the memorial on his birthday. She had a wonderful, wonderful awareness on that at the retreat in Malibu that she came to just about a month after this happened. And there was a young man who looked very much like her son walking down the road. And she looked and she thought, oh, it was a moment of, oh, it looks like him. And then she said, because she couldn't have caught up with him, he was walking quite fast. And she said, oh, he's gone on ahead. And I told her I was going to steal this because it would hit me too. All that happens when our friends leave, our relatives leave, our mates leave, they've gone on ahead. There's something about the comfort in that. They've just gone on ahead. And if you're facing friends who are moving toward that time, and many of our teachers are up in age and have retired their teaching on the external, but of course they maintain constant vigilance behind the helm, so to speak, in the silence. And when they do go, they won't be in our 5 physical senses, but they will have gone on ahead. And in that there is a comfort. In that there is the knowing that there really is no them and is no us. There's just the story we tell about that person. Many of us get very creative with our stories, our personal stories, our stories about them, our scripts that we write and then perform in our towns, on our streets, in the costumes that we go and wear, in the masks that we put on to do our daily work. And yet, with all that, there is no condemnation, there is no guilt, there is no, that shouldn't be that way. All there is God living its life as. When there's discomfort, the conditioning has roused up within us of old behaviors or things we thought we'd outgrown and now we see ourselves repeating them, or we thought we had left it behind. It's just old conditioning being triggered by, say, cellular memory, say, DNA memory, emotional memory. That's all. Lay it down as instantly as possible. Come back home. Come back to big self. The class titled itself Sunrise of Your Soul. And it is like a rising, isn't it? I use the term dropping down into the silence, and yet at the same time there is this energy of spiritual rising. So when we call for help, all we're saying is, know who I am. Recognize my Christ. Forget the body I just hung on the cross in this old thinking. See me coming out from the tomb of my human condition. See me rise. See the spirit within me. Know who I am, for I have forgotten. Deborah was telling the old tale we love so much about the child this morning at the table, for those who weren't there, about the child, the toddler that wanted to go in and be alone with the newborn baby. And when the parents allowed him, but they were monitoring, they could hear him say to the baby, "Tell me about God, for I am beginning to forget." That's all we do with one another when we say, keep them in prayer. Take them in. Where are we taking them? There is no them to take, but we say the words, take them in. Pray for me. Pray for so-and-so. Prayer being the silence. What does that mean? Are we praying for M-A-N up here, the man, which is illusion? No. We're saying, I remember who you are, my dear. I know who you are. Come on. Come back from the mind. Drop down into your heart, into your soul, and remember. I have this word that I've been working with for several years, and I have it up here on the table for myself, and it's conditioning. I think it's such a lovely word. There's not a lot of guilt behind that, is there? There's no condemnation. There's the understanding that I've been conned. You know, C-O-N, the beginning of the word conditioning. How sweet, no matter what we see going on in the political stuff, the dramas and the scripts and the stories and the politics right now. I can only endure a slight bit of it, but I just crack up because they're all conned. You know, we're all conned. They're going to see who they can con the most to vote for who. And when I say that, I don't mean anything in any negative form there. It's all a con job. All the conditioning out there being lived by 5 physical senses is one big con job. But for some reason, we stop and we go, oh, Do I really want to live in the nature of man and the nature of error, or do I want to live in the nature of God / I am, or do I want to live, and do I want to move into the prayer, nature of prayer, silence? The reason there's only 12 people here is that we don't want to, the human being doesn't want to lay down all that conditioning. You know, there should be a real sign out there that says, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. For as you enter here, your little self hasn't got a chance. It's on its way out. That ego, that thing that thinks it needs you so desperately, and when we get into conflict or anxiety, it comes in full force, not because it's our enemy, but it thinks it's got to save us. It's got to help us. It's got to feed us. All that information that we know, if we just read the right book, had gone to the right workshop, had been at the right church, that we wouldn't be experiencing this. And if I had just learned these principles, if I just meditated more, if I had only whatever, or if I wished I hadn't of, no. All of that, we lay it down, we put it on the cross. This is the Easter. That's what was nailed to the cross, was the humanhood of Jesus. The flesh and blood, the 5 physical senses. And then he rose. He rose from the deadness of humanhood. And this is, in this moment, right here, this moment now. Not tomorrow when we're in the silence all day. But this moment here. Boom. Presence. Now. Here. That's all there is ever. Ever. Not when I've studied 5 more years or listened to 32 more tapes. But right now, here, presence, no self, no little self, just I, here, now, present, being, allowing, the furnace is on. The smog is out. The floor is under my feet. It is I, here, now, present, moment by moment. But there we are, starting to forget. Remind me, starting to forget. Keep me in your consciousness, we say to one another. And we do. We take that person lovingly within to the silence. We drop in, and we know there is nothing but God appearing as a retreat is a time to receive that gift. It's a time that we can put our finger on the authentic. What a great word, authentic. What's really real? What's really deep within us? Retreat is a experience, and you will go home and people will say, well, where have you been and what did you do? And you go, well, we meditated, we walked, we ate, we listened. And they'll look at us like, right, because there's no way you can put into words an experience that is wordless. But we get touched. And it's strange how it's never enough. Once we touch it, it's never enough. And once it touches you, it's got you. It's the best addiction to the silence and the stillness and the communion of God is the best addiction. I had to give up all the other ones to get the cream of the crop. Best addiction there is. It's the sweetest thing that I could take in. Another reason the classes, or let's say the people are not rushing at this point. They are going to start after this amazing thing that's happening. A couple of million people rushing now toward the non-story, toward the beautiful consciousness of the new earth that Toll describes so beautifully, that Revelation promised when he said, behold, there will be a new heaven and a new earth, for all the former things will pass away. It actually says have passed away. Well, what are the former things? The stories. When we lay down the dramas, the stories, the scripts, the tales we tell, when we lay it down, or it's ripped away from us. For as Barbara Muhl always said, break all attachments or they will be broken for you. And isn't that the truth? The harder I grasp, and I am on the path, the harder it is, and the more I resist, the more it persists. So when I go in and I lay it all down, and I repeat Job's words at the finality of his experience, for all the Job experience is the human experience, the hanging on, the letting go, getting to the point where we realize that it is God appearing as you. It is not you appearing as God. Big difference in the posture. And his words were, I will be silent before thee. And in that is, talk to me of God, for I'm beginning to forget. My human life is getting bigger than my time with thee. Help me reverse that. For I of my own self can do nothing. But if I reach out to you, my higher self, the I of my being, God, spirit, force, power, it does not care what you call it, Buddha, Jesus, Allah, it does not care what you call it, only that you call, only that you knock and ask. And in doing so, are your arms wide open in receptivity? It's amazing how that silent moment is never, ever, ever not there. It's only upon my bringing myself back home. Wake up, Dulcie. Be aware. Be still. Be I. Be here. Be here now. Awake. Not off in a trance. Here now. Present. Let it be enough, right here. And oh God, meditate me, for I am not able to meditate. God's ability to get through to you is far greater than your ability to get through to Him. Just ask. And we hear over and over, seek ye first the kingdom, and all these other things will be added unto you. If Joel said it on a tape recently, if that's the only scripture he had, it could take a lifetime to embody it. Seek ye first the kingdom. Where is that kingdom? Is it out there? No. The world thinks so. How many castles and how many kingdoms have fallen? How many political countries have fallen? How many clamoring is there? You know, we change enemies. You know, certain years it's this country is our enemy, and then we decide, no, they're our friends. Now we'll move over, and these are our enemy. These are our terrorists. No, now these are our terrorists. But only terror lives within me of that which I buy when sold on the marketplace. For, quote again, the whole world is you, yet you keep thinking there is something else. And I come home. Okay, so I've got myself coming home. I know how to wake in the morning and go straight to God. I know how to lay my head down at night, asking for God to be with me as I sleep. I know how to pause through the day. Father, God on the field, God on the field, God on the field. And then there's the accident before me on the highway, or perhaps I'm in one. What is that? What did I do wrong? Didn't I meditate long enough? And here we go. No. Another part of the illusionary existence. So we come back and we say, God, I want to know what you want from me. And all God wants from you is you. God really doesn't care if you move or don't move, marry or don't marry, divorce or don't divorce. All He wants is your communion, your presence, your union, your happiness, joyousness, your freedom, freedom from them and it. Do I really think it's my job to heal them? Do I really think there's anything to be healed? Do I really think that person's story should be different other than it is? I've come to understand that my job here is to not interfere with anyone's unfoldment. How many times have I tried to play God, thinking I know better what someone else should, oughta, woulda, shoulda, coulda been doing? Am I really giving those loved ones around me the dignity of choice, of finding their own God experience? Am I really practicing hands off, recognizing the truth of their being, the Christ of them? Do I resurrect them to their Christhood, or do I continually nail them, their story, their drama, on the cross of humanhood? Christian Science has that wonderful word, malpractice. Am I malpracticing them by believing their stories? Or do I take them off the cross and see straight through? What an order. Seeing straight through their script, their drama. Or am I participating in it and creating it bigger? Oh, what an order. Not to do that. Hands off. Mind my own business, for there are only 3 kinds of business. And if I am uncomfortable or anxious, I am not in my business. I am either in their business or God's business. And so we come to a retreat. We come to a retreat to come home, to allow them to be them, to allow God to be God, to allow me to be me, to heal the belief of my story, to investigate what I might like to change, to just be. And so we take all of our beloved ones in, and we take our enemies in, for either way we are seeing through a glass darkly. We are not understanding their Christhood, their God self. But as we see through the appearances, through the illusion, we come home and we remain present. We finally stop trying to make this world work, and we simply do world work. What is world work? Coming to understand, recognize, demonstrate the illusionary nature of this third-dimensional world. And you cannot do it with the mind, and you cannot do it while living in the third dimension. Mind cannot heal the mind. But I can rise. I can rise into my soul faculty. I can come out of the earthly human faculty, rise into the soul faculty, and be in the fourth dimension, and then I can look at the third dimensional arena and applaud. So now it seems that we have separateness. And again, that is not true. That is only the misunderstanding. For it is one, it is I. Same. We just use the terminology of dimensions for description, that we can rise into other dimensions of frequency, raising our energy so that we can see clearly. And then we can go back and forth at will. And as we do that, those around us start to lay down their dramas too. For they feel something, but not when we are speaking. They feel it when we simply deliver love. Love in allowing, presence, saying nothing, laying down our judgments, removing ourselves from that which no longer works for us. Listening within, investigating, is this my truth? Is this for me? And we cease decorating God. And we come home to the simple, silent place of our own God being. And we are alone with God, all one, alone, ALLONE, all one. And we rest.